on everybody's mind. DJs spinning on songs now decline. Rap is fast, but rap ain't cool. Hot enough to burn, yet I roll with a firm that'll put that fire out low in your tent. Smack you with the banana, little chip. I'm known to run laps around your BMI and ass cap. Put me on a tour bus, cover whole map. Leave my organs intact when I die, but please donate every rhyme that I fried and baked to the no-skill rappers on the make who say the same shit, come in the same fit. And I'm wonderful while I'm most wild. Most call me Wonder Wild for years. Got hip-hop like water to blood. That's the life flow to the very first. Everybody say, oh, yeah. Yes, yes, y'all. Yes, y'all.
Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and today I'm doing, I originally planned to do a video on the Dial of Destiny, on Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, and since I was like, this is watchable, this is an okay movie, why did they run into some roadblocks? And the first, but I got kind of strayed as I watched it again, because I watched it on the plane, and then tried to watch it again, and then I watched it at home, and I was like, by the third watching, it started to remind me of something. But let's go through what the issue were. I asked a friend, and he said the graphics were pretty bad. So I said, okay, I can't fault you with that. You're looking at this, well, you know they're doing some age sort of technology thing. You're expecting some good work, right? And Indiana Jones, you got money behind it. They should put some money behind it. So I couldn't really fault him for that. And people going in, where you're going to be doing graphics, you need to be prepared to take the heat if the graphics are terrible, right? So with that said, the next thing was, in my mind, was Project Paperclip, right? Because we start the story with Nazis, right? And the Nazis being as bad as they can be. And then we start with the same Nazis and Aryan type of white dudes now working with the government. The Operation Paperclip. And now they're somehow in good with the CIA. And it's just like, I don't know if that went over well with people. So that was my idea of why this story wasn't working. But then, at the same time, on my third viewing, I started to get reminded of something. And I was reminded of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is, since it's an impossible mission, and after they did Fallout, I think Chris McQuarrie said him and Tom Cruise had an idea for the next one. And then in the pitch at the end of the movie, he said this was going to be a two-parter, right? So this is at the end of Fallout. He said this is going to be a two-parter. They already had the idea for this. And then soon after Fallout was a success, they locked in Christopher McQuarrie for those two films. So he was locked in for two films. Obviously, they shot them probably at the same time. But they did that, and then COVID happened, basically stopping production. Now, somewhere along this time, a little bit later, they announced doing another Indiana Jones film. And as they were doing it, they introduced the idea that the actress from Fleabag, she was going to be not only starring in it, but she was going to be doing some rewrites on it, since she had done, was it Phoebe Walker-Bridge? She was going to be in, she's written, I think it's Killing Zoe. That's probably wrong. Let me see, what else has she read? Killing Eve. Killing Zoe is a different movie altogether. So she had written Killing Eve, Fleabag. So she was one of the hot writers of the time. And at the same time, she would be tapped to do Indiana Jones. So back to Dead Reckoning. The basic plot for Dead Reckoning is Mission Impossible Force versus War Games, where the War Games, if you know the War Games movie from the 80s, the Mission Impossible Force would now be facing something that was our reality right now. Like nobody was talking about AI that much, except for Dick Gregory. Before he passed, he mentioned that everything was run by AI, and then right around after this movie came out, they were saying that people were just acting like AI is going to take over. So it should have been timely, or before the curve, right? So you're saying, hey, we got a movie about this this um this this intelligence group versus AI going rogue, and we have this artifact that travels through time. So the two don't relate at all, right? So I was like, you know what? Possibly no. For me, I don't say. I immediately say this is too close, right? And those you saying is not too close. I'll show you why, right? So one of the things is that if you have the dial that, and they keep making sure this dial is not a mystical artifact, not a pagan god, not a Greek god thing. This is a mathematical artifact. And of course, we have this AI that's connecting math. You're saying, man, you get in the cam, you're reaching, bro, right? So first off, the hard part is that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is dealing with the past, right? It's going to go into Ethan Hunt's past and the idea that the IMF crew are more like how Ving Rhames came in it. Ving Rhames had sort of a past, but he's kind of tapped to utilize his computer skills to help the government, right? So they were going to get into this history that basically all these guys, since they can easily be killed and disavowed, and that's what the first movie tried to show you, where they had all these agents and they killed a lot of them. And I think they did the same for either 3 and 4, where they had these agents and agents would routinely die. And they try to have somebody, the perilous part of being in the IMF force. So, in IMF. So they try to show that, but one of the things they were going to do was Tom Cruise was going to use the age technology to be younger, right? But then we go to, if we go to the other thing, the whole open of Indiana Jones is an age sequence of Indiana Jones in Nazi Germany, right? So then you say it doesn't directly relate, but it does, because it has a train sequence, a runaway train sequence, right? The Indy's on this train thing. Go back to Dead Reckoning. They have a big, huge train sequence that's been in the trailer. So then I was like, oh man, those are pretty close. And they can't connect the horse, even though I did a video and I had the horse and the motorcycle, that sort of thing, because there's no huge stunt in these things. Of course, there's car chases in any sort of thing, but there's a little bit more, there's humor in both. So it's kind of tough. So I know they probably couldn't see what Dead Reckoning was doing, but somehow they got the tone of the chase back in the Indiana Jones film, where the Tom Cruise ones, they always have a great chase scene. So, but there's similarities in that. And then the harder part is when you get to the actual Phoebe Walker-Bridge character, right? Because she is supposed to be the sister, probably the goddaughter of Indiana Jones. And in this movie, in Dead Reckoning, we get, let me scan to it, right? So we're here, right? In this movie, we get Phoebe, right? She is the British character, and this is what sealed it for me, not because the other character is the goddaughter. It sealed it for me because there's right. So we get Grace here, right? So when we introduce Grace, that is kind of the linchpin of the story that kind of ties these two together. Come on, why is this saying small? So Grace is kind of, even though she's not introduced in the first part of the story, she's the linchpin of this entire story, right? She's the linchpin in the sense that they go into Tom Cruise's past, Ethan Hunt's past. They connect his past and saying that these people that are on the edge, that are about to, lose their time, but they have some certain skills that could be of some use for the government, they are put into the IMF crew, and then they are utilized until they're possibly killed or, turn into a desk job, right? So it's one of those things where you have a setup where you have this character that's kind of the linchpin of it, because at the end it's kind of her joining the team, right? But she's a thief. And then we go to the Indiana Jones story. His niece, she's basically a thief, and she's the linchpin in the sense that Indy is not involved in anything. He is totally out, right? And she brings these Nazis and the government after her because she has a piece of this dial, and she wants to. Oh my God! There's even an underwater sequence. It's not as big as the submarine, but it's like if you have all these pieces, right, and you're stealing content and you're taking this plot from in the Mission Impossible, as Frank Miller would have the scene, you shouldn't have signed it, right? So it's kind of tough for me because it was a good Indiana Jones movie, but then as I watched it, and then I watched Mission Impossible, it just seemed more similar as you go along. So the sad point is, I'm saying that the Dial of Destiny ripped some major portions of their plot and tossed it in from this IMF thing. And I was gonna say in my review of Mission Impossible that possibly Tom Cruise pissed off someone at the Academy not showing up at the awards. And also that because he lost theaters, he didn't get his Amex theaters because what's those theaters? IMAX theaters. He because of Oppenheimer, so they lost money in the amount of theaters they could use. So I was like those two things, but then also seeing that we had a movie kind of steal its thunder by basically taking key portions of it and putting it into your own story, even though the other story involves time travel, where ultimately Indy is able to travel through time using this dial. It works on mathematics, but obviously computers works on binary ones and zeros. So that's kind of mathematics type of deal. So that's the reaching part. But those two big things, the train and then the thief's plot in this story, feels like it's ultimately lifted. I can't say car chases, that sort of thing, but obviously there's a ton of characters in the IMF, so it's like that's not when you pull stuff out of it, it's like the Incredibles. You pull stuff out, you might do some new things, but a lot of they shouldn't have used as much stuff as they did. And if they wanted Christopher McQuarrie, they should have just used them to come up with a plot for Indy. But it's sad to say because they had a good movie in Indiana Jones, and to find out that it was only Dead Reckoning was very sad for me. So, and as of right now, obviously it's a part 1, so hopefully part 2 will come out. Indy has a okay ending now that we see them, we lost Mutt, but we ended on an okay note. Whereas the future of the IMF is in doubt. Even though the IMF has gone through ups and downs, their most successful film in people's minds is MI3, which was their least successful one. They were on a high after Fallout, but now with the pandemic, and even though Tom Cruise had done Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, it's kind of how I guess how the people feel about it. Or are they gonna go in and try to adjust Dead Reckoning to try to make sure it works, which never sort of works. So I don't know. It just sucks that there's so much bits that are in Dead Reckoning that are also in the Dial of Destiny. So I think that's about it. I can't say Dial of Destiny was good because it borrowed too much, in my opinion. But I watched Dead Reckoning the other day, and it held up. It was a little more say that it was a little more involved than the normal plot. They basically had a good. They had a. How can I say this? It was almost not like totally like a novel, but if you idea that you start somewhere, right? You start with the submarine, and then you deal with the IMF doing their thing, and them trying to stop this. They find out about this sort of submarine thing that happened, and it's just very involved plot. This is like it's not hard to follow because you have this AI. You have them realize the AI is going rogue. You have the idea that the IMF are not going to be able to deal with this. And then as it goes along, we find out that a thief has been brought into this thing to steal the actual failsafe key. And that leads us into a whole different sort of plot and a whole different sort of thing where we're on a time limit with this AI. And that the AI is a character that's not on screen, even though they have a moment for the character or the AI. The AI takes up a lot of space and it does a lot of wackiness that creates a lot more fun things and characters from Ethan's past. So this one is probably the more clear, easiest one to follow. It's just very involved. It's very involved. So I think Fallout had a lot of twists and turns, but you could get lost. This one you don't get lost, but it's like there's a B, C, and D plot. It's like very involved. But then when you look at it and you cull it down, it's like taking Infinity War, and you say, you know what? I think this is a Thanos movie. And as you look at the the IMF movie, I think this is a Grace movie, but Grace doesn't show up until like 20 minutes into the movie, and that's an off. It could be 10 to 15 minutes into the movie, but she's a big part of the plot, and not just a big part of the plot because Tom Cruise is in it. She's a big part of the plot where symbolically she shows the arc of the IMF characters, of how each and every one of them could have joined this team. So that's what's really an interesting part. That, you know what, I think this is Haley Atwell's movie. Like, is this Haley Atwell's movie? And even got the guy who was in her TV show. He plays one of the government agents chasing her around. The only thing I will slight is that we didn't get Angela Bassett, who totally killed Fallout. She like murdered it. We didn't get her in this one, but hopefully she'll be back for part 2. She just had a picture on the wall because, they decided to bring Kittredge back. But but she was more. I think she was CIA. So they got Carrie Eloise in it. So we kind of pushed aside the Dial of Destiny, and we're just going into this. So there's a great arc for I don't know what to say. It feels like it's a Haley Atwell movie, and she hasn't had a full-fledged movie that's all hers. And that bodes well, sadly, for the next one. Because if they're following through with the way it should go, I can only see one option. If they did a Grace movie of a character we just met as the lead, who knows who's going to make it out of this? And we know Ving has some bad knees. Benji, can't see him going. Who else could go? They couldn't kill Grace early on. Who's going to be left? Who's going to survive? Anyway, Spinner Rack is out. And I don't know. I say check out Dead Reckoning first, then watch Dial of Destiny if you haven't seen it already, and keep it in that order, right? So give some money to the Mission Impossible crew first if you're gonna go see Dial of Destiny. Spin a rack out.